The forest was too quiet. I knew silence like this wasn't natural. Not here. Not in Silver Pine. The wind bit against my cheeks as I trudged deeper into the woods, my boots crunching into a thin layer of frost. The pale moonlight spilled across the earth like shattered glass, cold and sharp, illuminating twisted roots and skeletal branches. I wasn't supposed to be out here. I told myself that 100 times, but every path, every memory, every nightmare always brought me back to this place. Back to where my brother died. It had been 3 months, but the images never faded. The way Ethan's screams had shattered the night, the trail of blood staining the snow, the massive wolf that had lunged from the shadows. Everyone said it was a wild animal, a freak accident, but I'd seen its eyes, silver, almost glowing, too intelligent to be just an animal, too calculating, and somewhere deep inside me, beneath all the numbness and grief, I knew one thing: whatever killed my brother, it wasn't done yet. I tightened my grip on the flashlight and scanned the darkness between the trees. The forest seemed endless tonight, stretching like an open wound beneath the bruised sky. I didn't realize I'd wandered so far from the edge of town until the faint outline of the Ravenspire Ridge loomed in the distance. Locals called it cursed, whispering about disappearances, hunters who never returned, and wolves that walked like men. I never used to believe them. I do now. A snap of a branch behind me made me freeze. My breath caught in my throat as I slowly turned. Nothing. Just shadows tangled between the pines. Still, the feeling crawled beneath my skin. I wasn't alone. "Who's there?" I whispered. Though my voice shook. No answer. I stepped backward, scanning the tree line, but then a low growl rolled through the darkness. My blood turned to ice. The sound wasn't far. Not even 20 feet. Deep, guttural, almost human. I spun and ran. Branches whipped against my arms, slicing through the thin fabric of my jacket. My breath came ragged, heart pounding so violently it echoed in my ears. I didn't look back, didn't want to see what was following me until I felt the ground tremble behind me. Then I glanced over my shoulder, and I saw him, a wolf, massive, its coat black as midnight, fur rippling under the moonlight like liquid shadow. Its silver eyes locked on me, familiar and terrifying. The same eyes from that night. I stumbled, hitting the ground hard, pain shooting up my palms. My flashlight skittered into the snow. The wolf stalked closer, muscles coiled, silent but lethal, each step deliberate. I scrambled backward, pressing my back against a fallen tree. "Stay away," I rasped, though my voice cracked like brittle glass. The wolf tilted its head, studying me, and for the briefest moment, I could have sworn something flickered in its gaze, something almost human. Then a howl split the silence, sharp and guttural. Somewhere in the distance, the black wolf froze. Its ears twitched, and with a single, effortless leap, it vanished into the shadows. I sat there, chest heaving, every muscle trembling. I should have run home, should have left the woods and never looked back. But I didn't, because something inside me shifted in that moment. It wasn't just fear pounding through my veins, it was something darker. Something magnetic. By the time I made it back to town, my legs were numb from cold, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. The streets of Hollow Creek were deserted, blanketed in soft, fresh snow. When I finally reached the small cabin I shared with my mother, the lights were out. I pushed the door open quietly, leaning against it as I caught my breath. "You went back to the forest again." The voice came from the couch. My mother sat there, arms crossed, exhaustion lining every feature of her face. Her dark hair, once rich and full, had dulled in the months since Ethan's death. "You promised me, Arya," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You promised you'd stay away." I swallowed hard, pulling my jacket tighter around me. I needed to see it again. I thought maybe what? Her voice rose, sharp with grief. "That you'd find him alive? That you'd undo what happened?" I dropped my gaze, words caught in my throat. After a moment, she exhaled, shakily, and rubbed her temples. "Arya, the sheriff closed the case. You need to stop torturing yourself. It was an animal attack, that's all." I wanted to believe her. I couldn't, because deep down, I knew the truth. And tonight, I'd seen it again. Sleep didn't come easily. I tossed beneath my blanket, shadows twisting across the ceiling from the soft glow of the street lamp outside. My mind replayed everything: the flash of silver eyes, the sheer size of the beast, the strange intelligence in its stare. But somewhere between memory and exhaustion, I began to dream. The forest, the cold sting of snow beneath my feet, and him, the black wolf, except this time, he wasn't hunting me. He was standing still, watching me. Then, before my eyes, his shape shifted, bones cracked, fur receded, limbs lengthened, contorted, reshaped until a man stood where the beast had been. Tall, broad shoulders, dark hair falling into his face, damp from the snow, and those same silver eyes. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. Somehow I knew him, and when he stepped toward me, my chest tightened not with fear, but with something far more dangerous. I jolted awake, heart racing, skin damp with sweat. It was just a dream, but it didn't feel like one. I thought that was the end of it. I thought I'd seen the wolf for the last time, but the next evening, as I walked home from the diner where I work late shifts, I felt it again, that same electric weight in the air. Like the storm before lightning strikes, I glanced over my shoulder, and there he was, not as a wolf, not even in my dreams, a man, standing beneath the broken streetlight across the road, tall, broad-shouldered, black jacket, dark jeans, snowflakes clung to his hair, melting against the heat of his skin, but it was his eyes that made my breath catch, silver, cold, unmistakable, and in that instant, I knew the man standing in the shadows was the same creature that had killed my brother, the same man I should run from, the same man I couldn't seem to look away from. The street was quiet, too quiet. Snowflakes drifted lazily in the pale glow of the street lamps, melting as they touched the cracked asphalt. My breath came in short, uneven bursts, each cloud of frost vanishing almost instantly in the cold air. I stood frozen on the sidewalk, my hand clutching the strap of my bag so tightly that my knuckles ached. Across the road, beneath the broken street light, he stood, tall, broad-shouldered, silent, like the shadows themselves had carved him into existence. I should have screamed, should have turned and run, but my feet refused to move. Then he stepped forward. The crunch of his boots against the snow shattered the stillness, slow and deliberate, as though he was giving me a chance to flee, a chance I didn't take. The dim light caught on his face, revealing sharp, defined features and those haunting, silver eyes that gleamed like frost under the moonlight. "You," I whispered, barely breathing the word. For a moment, neither of us moved. Neither of us spoke. The only sound was the distant whistle of wind through the trees. Finally, I found my voice cracked and fragile but sharp with fury. "You were there the night Ethan died." His jaw tensed. He didn't deny it, didn't say a single word. The silence made my chest constrict. I wanted him to speak, to explain, to shatter this nightmare. But he just stood there, watching me with that unreadable expression. "Say something," I shouted, my voice splintering into the night. "You killed him." A muscle twitched in his jaw, and for the first time, I saw something flicker in his gaze, not guilt, not pity, but pain, deep, controlled, dangerous. He took another step closer, and instinct kicked in. I stumbled back, clutching the strap of my bag like a weapon. "Stay away from me." But he stopped mid-step, his eyes locking on mine, and when he finally spoke, his voice was low, rough, and strangely magnetic. "If I wanted to hurt you," he said softly, "you wouldn't still be standing." His words slid under my skin like ice and fire all at once. I blinked at him, trying to steady my breathing, trying to summon anger instead of fear. "Then why are you following me?" "I'm not following you." His voice was calm, controlled. "I'm making sure they don't." I frowned, confusion slicing through the haze of panic. For a brief moment, his expression shifted sharp, guarded, like he'd said too much. He glanced toward the darkened edge of the forest at the end of the street, his jaw clenching. "You shouldn't be out here alone," he said finally, his tone clipped, like an order more than advice. I almost laughed, bitter sharp. "Are you serious? You killed my brother and you're warning me about danger?" He froze, his entire body going rigid at my words, and then, in the faint glow of the street lamp, I saw his hand curling into a fist at his side, tendons tight beneath his skin, his control fragile. "I didn't kill him," he said at last, his voice hoarse and ragged. I stared at him, disbelief twisting through me. "I saw you," I spat. "I saw your eyes. That night, in the woods. It was you." His gaze met mine, unflinching, but there was something heavy there, something unspoken. "You saw what you were meant to see," he murmured, almost to himself. "What the hell does that even mean?" My voice cracked under the weight of frustration and grief. "Just tell me the truth." But he only shook his head, stepping back into the shadows. "Not tonight," he whispered, and then he was gone. One blink, one heartbeat, and he vanished into the darkness like smoke dissolving into air, leaving nothing but silence behind. I stumbled home, my entire body buzzing with adrenaline and confusion. The cabin lights were still off when I pushed open the door, the old wood creaking beneath my weight. My mother was asleep in her chair, a half-empty glass of wine still in her hand. I moved quietly, carefully, making my way to my room, but I couldn't sleep, not after seeing him, not after hearing his voice. I paced the narrow floor, my thoughts spiraling. He said he didn't kill Ethan. He said he was protecting me. From who? From what? And why the hell was he watching me in the first place? Eventually, exhaustion dragged me under, but my dreams offered no peace. This time, when I dreamed of him, it wasn't the wolf I saw, it was the man. We stood in the forest, frost crunching beneath my bare feet, his silver eyes burning through me. "You don't understand what you are, Arya," he whispered. Before I could ask him what he meant, his form shifted, bones cracking, skin tearing, his body contorting until the beast stood before me again. The wolf, the same silver-eyed shadow from that night. I jolted awake, heart pounding, skin damp with sweat. The next evening at the diner, the bell above the door chimed softly as the cold night air swept inside. I looked up from the counter, expecting another regular, and froze. It was him. The stranger, the wolf, the killer. He walked in like he belonged there, his presence pulling every pair of eyes in the room. His dark jacket clung to his broad shoulders, his silver gaze scanning the diner before locking on me. My grip on the coffee pot faltered, and I nearly spilled it. Before I could react, he slid into the booth in the far corner, his back against the wall, his gaze fixed out the window. I tried to ignore him, focusing on pouring coffee and delivering plates, but I felt the weight of his stare every time I passed by. Finally, when the last table cleared, I couldn't take it anymore. I marched toward him, my hands trembling but my voice steady. "You need to leave," I hissed under my breath, stopping at his booth. He looked up slowly, silver eyes locking onto mine, and for the briefest moment, something like a smirk curved his lips. "If I wanted to leave," he said softly, "I wouldn't have come." My stomach tightened. "What do you want from me?" He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice until it was barely audible. "To keep you alive." The words sent a chill racing down my spine. Before I could respond, he slid out of the booth, towering over me, his presence overwhelming and suffocating all at once. He moved past me, his shoulder brushing mine, and whispered just loud enough for me to hear, "They'll come for you soon." I spun around, but he was already gone, the door swinging shut behind him, and for the second time in 2 nights, I was left standing in silence, shaken, breathless, and with 1,000 more questions than answers. The next morning, the storm had settled over Hollow Creek, wrapping the town in a blanket of frost and silence. I woke to the sound of creaking branches outside my window and the distant howl of wind cutting through the trees. My mind was heavy, fogged with restless dreams, but one thought burned through the haze. Who was he? The man with silver eyes, the wolf in the snow, the one who claimed he was protecting me. I sat on the edge of my bed, pulling my knees close, trying to piece everything together. He hadn't denied being there the night Ethan died. He hadn't denied being the wolf. And yet, he said he didn't kill him. My chest ached with confusion and anger, but underneath it all, there was something else I couldn't ignore, a pull, an invisible thread that kept tugging me toward him despite everything I knew, despite every instinct screaming for me to run. I hated it. I hated him. I hated myself more for wanting answers from the one person I should fear most. By noon, I found myself walking to Hollow Creek's library, the oldest building in town, its stone walls half swallowed by creeping ivy. Inside, the air smelled of dust and old secrets, the kind of place where forgotten things waited to be found. I moved between the narrow shelves until I reached the far corner, the one section no one really touched, local history and folklore. I pulled out an old, cracked leather book titled Legends of Silver Pine. My fingers trembled slightly as I flipped through brittle pages covered in faded ink sketches, wolves beneath the moon, runes carved into trees, blood sigils, and half-buried rituals. And then I found it, a section labeled, The Ravenspire Curse. My breath caught as I read. It is said that the Ravenspire bloodline was bound to the moon centuries ago, cursed to walk as both man and beast. Each generation carried the mark, When the bond of the alpha breaks, chaos falls upon the pack, and blood must be spilled to restore balance. The drawings beneath the words were haunting towering wolves with silver eyes, standing on two legs surrounded by spirals of blood. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. Silver eyes, like his. I slammed the book shut, shoving it back into place, my breath shallow. This wasn't possible. It couldn't be. And yet, deep down, I already knew the truth. That evening, the wind howled like a wounded thing as I made my way home from the diner. Every shadow along the path seemed to stretch longer, reaching for me, wrapping me in unease. Then I felt it again, that weight, that static in the air, crawling across my skin like a warning. I stopped walking, every sense sharpening, and slowly turned. He was there, not 20 feet away, leaning against a street lamp as if he'd been waiting for me. His black jacket was dusted with snow, his breath visible in the cold, his silver eyes locked on mine like he'd been carved from the night itself. I swallowed hard, forcing the tremor from my voice. "You need to stop following me," I told. "You," he said, his voice low and rough. "I'm not following you. I'm keeping you alive." "From who?" My voice cracked. "From what?" For a moment, he didn't answer. He just studied me, his gaze unreadable, like he was weighing every possible consequence before speaking. Finally, he stepped closer, his boots crunching softly against the snow. "There are others," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "Hunters. Rogues. You shouldn't be out here alone." "Hunters?" I repeated, blinking at him. "They know what you saw that night," he said. "And they know what you are." His words sliced through me, leaving me cold and hollow. "What I am?" I echoed, breathless. "I'm not. You don't know yet," he interrupted, his voice sharp now, controlled but strained. "But you will. And when they come, they won't care if you understand. They'll kill you anyway." I took a shaky step back, shaking my head. "You're insane." His jaw clenched, something dark flashing in his expression, frustration, maybe even anger, but then he exhaled slowly, as if forcing himself to calm. "Arya," he said softly. Hearing my name on his lips sent an involuntary shiver down my spine. "Stay away from Ravenspire Ridge. Do you understand me? No matter what happens, don't go there." Before I could reply, a sound shattered the silence, low, guttural, and close, a growl, not his. I froze. From the shadows beyond the trees, figures emerged, 3 of them, stepping into the pale moonlight. They weren't fully human, but not entirely wolf either. Their forms twisted, limbs unnaturally long, claws glinting beneath ragged sleeves. My breath hitched. My body locked in place. The stranger moved in front of me instantly, his stance wide, his voice low and sharp. "Stay behind me," the creatures snarled, circling, their glowing amber eyes fixed on us like predators closing in. "Rogues," he muttered under his breath, his tone laced with disgust. And then, before I could comprehend what was happening, his body began to change, bones cracked, muscles rippled, his dark jacket tearing at the seams. Fur burst along his skin, thick and black as midnight, until the man was gone, replaced by the towering beast from my nightmares, the wolf. Him. He lunged, faster than my eyes could follow, slamming into the nearest rogue with a feral snarl. Claws tore, teeth clashed, snow exploded beneath their weight. I stumbled backward, hitting the frozen bark of a tree, my breath fogging in sharp bursts as chaos unfolded around me. The other 2 rogues lunged, but he moved like living shadow. Deadly, relentless, untamed. For a moment, I forgot to breathe. Then one of the rogues broke free, darting toward me with claws raised. I screamed, ducking instinctively, but before it could reach me, his black wolf slammed into it, jaws snapping around its throat, dragging it into the snow. The last rogue hesitated, snarled once, then fled into the darkness. The forest fell silent again. I stood frozen, trembling, my pulse thundering in my ears as the black wolf turned toward me, his silver gaze glowing faintly under the moon. Blood stained his fur, his chest heaving with every ragged breath. And yet, he didn't move closer. He just stared at me, waiting, watching. Then slowly, his massive form began to shift. Bones cracked, fur receded, until the man stood before me once more, chest bare, skin marked with deep scratches, breath coming heavy in the cold air. I took a shaky step back, words caught in my throat. "You," my voice cracked. "You saved me." He didn't answer right away. His silver eyes locked on mine, and something passed between us, something unspoken but undeniable. "You're in this now, Arya," he said finally, his voice low and steady. Whether you want to be or not. And for the first time, I saw it clearly, the truth behind the fear, behind the anger, behind the mystery. The monster who had haunted my nightmares was the only thing keeping me alive. The forest was still trembling. Snowflakes drifted lazily through the fractured silence, settling on broken branches and blood-stained frost. My breath came in ragged bursts, each one catching painfully in my chest. The cold bit into my skin, but I hardly felt it. All I could see was him. The man who had saved me, the beast who had haunted my nightmares, the stranger with silver eyes. He stood only a few feet away, chest bare and streaked with crimson, his breath visible in the icy air. Moonlight kissed the sharp angles of his face, and for a moment, it was hard to reconcile the man with the wolf I had seen seconds before. I swallowed hard, forcing words past the tightness in my throat. What are you? His silver gaze held mine, steady and unflinching. Something you're not ready to understand, he said quietly, his voice deep and rough, carrying the weight of too many secrets. I clenched my fists, anger rising to meet fear. Not ready to? I just watched you tear apart 3 things, monsters. I've been stalked, attacked, lied to, and my brother is dead. Don't you dare tell me I'm not ready. For the briefest moment, something flickered in his expression, a ghost of regret, quickly buried beneath steel. He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, his boots crunching softly against the snow. I flinched. He stopped instantly, his jaw tightening. I won't hurt you. I wanted to believe him. I didn't know if I could. You're lying, I whispered, my voice breaking. You killed him, didn't you? Ethan. My throat constricted around the name. It was you that night. His jaw worked silently for a moment, his breathing uneven now. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and raw. I was there, he admitted, but I didn't kill him. Then who did? I demanded, the words sharp enough to cut. His gaze drifted toward the darkened tree line, his silver eyes catching the faint glow of the moon. A rogue, he said finally. One of them. The night Ethan died. They weren't after him, Arya. They were after you. My stomach dropped. Me? My voice cracked. That doesn't make sense. I'm not. You don't know what you are, he interrupted, his tone edged with frustration, but there was something softer underneath, like restraint. The cold stung my lungs as I took a shaky step back. You're insane, I said, shaking my head. This is insane. I'm human. His eyes softened for the first time since I'd met him, and something about that look made my chest tighten. You're not just human, he said, almost gently. Now, not entirely. The words hit me like a blow, leaving me hollow and breathless. I don't believe you. You don't have to, he said simply. But you've felt it, haven't you? The pull. The way your instincts are sharper than they should be. The way you know things you shouldn't. I stared at him, the denial on my lips faltering as memories flooded me, moments I'd ignored, brushed aside, hearing whispers no one else heard, sensing storms before they came, feeling like my body didn't quite belong to me anymore. I shook my head violently. No, I whispered, more to myself than to him. No, that's not. A soft pain sound escaped him, and he ran a hand through his dark, damp hair, his expression conflicted. I wasn't supposed to meet you like this, he muttered, almost too low to hear. I blinked. What does that mean? He hesitated, and for the first time, his voice trembled faintly when he spoke my name. Arya, I need you to listen to me, even if you hate me. Especially if you hate me. Something deep in my chest constricted, but I nodded silently, unable to look away. My name is Kellen Duskbane, he said at last, the sound of it sharp and strange in the frozen air. I'm the alpha of the Ravenspire pack. My blood ran cold. The name. I'd read it in the library book earlier. The cursed bloodline. The silver-eyed wolves bound to the moon. You're cursed, I whispered. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, wasn't quite sorrow. We all are. I stared at him, struggling to steady my breathing. Why me? I managed finally, my voice cracking on the words. Why are they coming after me? He hesitated, his gaze locking with mine, his jaw tight like he was holding back a truth too heavy to speak. Finally, he said, because you're marked. I blinked confused. Marked? By what? His voice lowered, rough and strained, as though even saying the words cost him something. By fate, he whispered. My chest tightened painfully, my entire body buzzing with something I didn't understand. That's not an answer, I rasped. What does that even mean? Kellen's silver gaze burned into mine, intense enough to make me step back instinctively. But he followed, slow and relentless, closing the distance between us until the cold from his breath ghosted against my skin. It means, he said softly, you were never meant to be outside this world. It's in your blood, Arya. Whether you believe me or not, you're tied to this, to me. I shook my head violently, tears stinging my eyes. No, I want nothing to do with you, with any of this. Something shattered in his expression, just for a moment, before his features hardened again. He stepped back, shoulders tense, like pulling himself away took effort. I told myself I'd stay away from you, he murmured, his voice rougher now. But I can't, not anymore. The bond. He stopped, biting off the rest of the sentence. I swallowed, throat tight, my voice shaking when I spoke. What bond? He hesitated, then exhaled slowly, the weight of his confession hanging in the cold night air. You're my mate, Arya. The world tilted beneath me, the words crashing into me like a tidal wave I wasn't ready for. I stared at him, frozen, the forest spinning around us, snow falling soundlessly between us. You're lying, I whispered, my voice breaking. You have to be lying. I wish I was, Kellen said softly, his expression unguarded now, raw and aching. I stumbled back, shaking my head, needing space, needing air, needing distance from the truth that was swallowing me whole. But before I could say another word, the sound of howls erupted in the distance, sharp, furious, many of them. Kellen's head snapped toward the sound, his body tensing instantly, his hand curling into a fist. They've found us, he growled, his voice low and lethal. We need to move, now. I opened my mouth to protest, to demand answers, but he closed the distance in a blur, his hand gripping mine, warm, strong, unyielding, and for a terrifying, inexplicable moment, my body didn't resist. The night air carried the damp chill of an approaching storm as I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the faint scratches on my wrist. The mark Ezra left on me, it burned softly, like embers refusing to die. Every time I looked at it, my chest ached with confusion and longing, a cruel reminder that my heart and my instincts were at war. I wanted to hate him. I should hate him. Ezra Blackwood had taken my brother from me. That truth was carved into my bones like scripture. But when I remembered the way his voice broke when he said my name, when I thought about how his hands trembled after saving me from the rogue attack last night, it didn't make sense. None of it did. Outside my window, the dense forest groaned under the weight of the wind. Branches rattled like restless spirits. Somewhere deep within, wolves held a chorus of pain, warning, and hunger, and for reasons I didn't understand. I felt him there, Ezra, like a magnetic pull. A thread wrapped around my ribs, tugging me toward him. I pressed my palms against my temples and whispered into the silence, why can't I stay away from you? The following evening, I decided to go to the old library at the edge of town. It wasn't just any library. It was the only place where I thought I could find answers. Ezra had mentioned something last night, something about moonbound laws, ancient rules that govern shifters and their mates. I needed to know what that meant, and why the universe would bind me to a man drenched in blood. Inside, the library smelled like cedarwood and forgotten secrets. Dust floated in beams of weak golden light from the high windows. I ran my fingers along cracked leather spines until I reached the hidden section tucked behind a sliding shelf. The title of one book caught my eye, Lunaris Pactum, The Binding of Souls. I pulled it out, my heart hammering as I flipped through fragile pages, filled with symbols I didn't understand. Then, a passage made my breath hitch. When the moon chooses, her will cannot be undone. A soul mark once formed cannot be severed by vengeance, distance, or death. Two become tethered until fate claims one, or both. My throat went dry. This wasn't just attraction. It wasn't my imagination. Ezra and I, we were bound. A soft creak sounded behind me, and I froze, looking for answers about us. I spun around, my pulse thundering, and there he was leaning against the doorway like he belonged to the shadows themselves. Ezra's presence consumed the air around him all. I took a shaky step back, words caught in my throat. You, my voice cracked. You saved me. He didn't answer right away. His silver eyes locked on mine, and something passed between us, something unspoken but undeniable. You're in this now, Arya, he said finally, his voice low and steady. Whether you want to be or not, And for the first time, I saw it clearly, the truth behind the fear, behind the anger, behind the mystery. The monster who had haunted my nightmares was the only thing keeping me alive. The forest was still trembling. Snowflakes drifted lazily through the fractured silence, settling on broken branches and blood-stained frost. My breath came in ragged bursts, each one catching painfully in my chest. The cold bit into my skin, but I hardly felt it. All I could see was him. The man who had saved me. The beast who had haunted my nightmares. The stranger with silver eyes. He stood only a few feet away, chest bare and streaked with crimson, his breath visible in the icy air. Moonlight kissed the sharp angles of his face, and for a moment, it was hard to reconcile the man with the wolf I had seen seconds before. I swallowed hard, forcing words past the tightness in my throat. "What are you?" His silver gaze held mine, steady and unflinching. "Something you're not ready to understand," he said quietly, his voice deep and rough, carrying the weight of too many secrets. I clenched my fists, anger rising to meet fear. "Not ready to? I just watched you tear apart 3 things, monsters. I've been stalked, attacked, lied to, and my brother is dead. Don't you dare tell me I'm not ready." For the briefest moment, something flickered in his expression, a ghost of regret, quickly buried beneath steel. He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, his boots crunching softly against the snow. I flinched. He stopped instantly, his jaw tightening. "I won't hurt you." I wanted to believe him. I didn't know if I could. "You're lying," I whispered, my voice breaking. "You killed him, didn't you, Ethan?" My throat constricted around the name. "It was you that night." His jaw worked silently for a moment, his breathing uneven now. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and raw. "I was there," he admitted, "but I didn't kill him." "Then who did?" I demanded, the words sharp enough to cut. His gaze drifted toward the darkened tree line, his silver eyes catching the faint glow of the moon. "A rogue," he said finally. "One of them. The night Ethan died. They weren't after him, Arya. They were after you." My stomach dropped. "Me?" My voice cracked. "That doesn't make sense. I'm not. You don't know what you are," he interrupted, his tone edged with frustration, but there was something softer underneath, like restraint. The cold stung my lungs as I took a shaky step back. "You're insane," I said, shaking my head. "This is insane. I'm human." His eyes softened for the first time since I'd met him, and something about that look made my chest tighten. "You're not just human," he said, almost gently. "Now, not entirely." The words hit me like a blow, leaving me hollow and breathless. I don't believe you." "You don't have to," he said simply. "But you've felt it, haven't you? The pull. The way your instincts are sharper than they should be. The way you know things you shouldn't." I stared at him, the denial on my lips faltering as memories flooded me, moments I'd ignored, brushed aside, hearing whispers no one else heard, sensing storms before they came, feeling like my body didn't quite belong to me anymore. I shook my head violently. "No," I whispered, more to myself than to him. "No, that's not." A soft pain sound escaped him, and he ran a hand through his dark, damp hair, his expression conflicted. "I wasn't supposed to meet you like this," he muttered, almost too low to hear. I blinked. "What does that mean?" He hesitated, and for the first time, his voice trembled faintly when he spoke my name. "Arya, I need you to listen to me, even if you hate me." "Especially if you hate me." Something deep in my chest constricted, but I nodded silently, unable to look away. "My name is Kellen Duskbane," he said at last, the sound of it sharp and strange in the frozen air. "I'm the alpha of the Ravenspire pack." My blood ran cold. The name. I'd read it in the library book earlier. The cursed bloodline. The silver-eyed wolves bound to the moon. "You're cursed," I whispered. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, wasn't quite sorrow. "We all are." I stared at him, struggling to steady my breathing. "Why me?" I managed finally, my voice cracking on the words. "Why are they coming after me?" He hesitated, his gaze locking with mine, his jaw tight like he was holding back a truth too heavy to speak. Finally, he said, "Because you're marked." I blinked, confused. "Marked? By what?" His voice lowered, rough and strained, as though even saying the words cost him something. "By fate," he whispered, my chest tightened painfully, my entire body buzzing with something I didn't understand. "That's not an answer," I rasped. "What does that even mean?" Kellen's silver gaze burned into mine, intense enough to make me step back instinctively. But he followed, slow and relentless, closing the distance between us until the cold from his breath ghosted against my skin. It means, he said softly, you were never meant to be outside this world. It's in your blood, Arya. Whether you believe me or not, you're tied to this, to me. I shook my head violently, tears stinging my eyes. No, I want nothing to do with you, with any of this. Something shattered in his expression, just for a moment, before his features hardened again. He stepped back, shoulders tense, like pulling himself away took effort. I told myself I'd stay away from you, he murmured, his voice rougher now. But I can't, not anymore. The bond. He stopped, biting off the rest of the sentence. I swallowed, throat tight, my voice shaking when I spoke. What bond? He hesitated, then exhaled slowly, the weight of his confession hanging in the cold night air. You're my mate, Arya. The world tilted beneath me, the words crashing into me like a tidal wave I wasn't ready for. I stared at him, frozen, the forest spinning around us, snow falling soundlessly between us. You're lying, I whispered, my voice breaking. You have to be lying. I wish I was, Kellen said softly, his expression unguarded now, raw and aching. I stumbled back, shaking my head, needing space, needing air, needing distance from the truth that was swallowing me whole. But before I could say another word, the sound of howls erupted in the distance, sharp, furious, many of them. Kellen's head snapped toward the sound, his body tensing instantly, his hand curling into a fist. They've found us, he growled, his voice low and lethal. We need to move, now. I opened my mouth to protest, to demand answers, but he closed the distance in a blur, his hand gripping mine, warm, strong, unyielding, and for a terrifying, inexplicable moment, my body didn't resist. The night air carried the damp chill of an approaching storm as I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the faint scratches on my wrist. The mark Ezra left on me, it burned softly, like embers refusing to die. Every time I looked at it, my chest ached with confusion and longing, a cruel reminder that my heart and my instincts were at war. I wanted to hate him. I should hate him. Ezra Blackwood had taken my brother from me. That truth was carved into my bones like scripture. But when I remembered the way his voice broke when he said my name, when I thought about how his hands trembled after saving me from the rogue attack last night, it didn't make sense. None of it did. Outside my window, the dense forest groaned under the weight of the wind. Branches rattled like restless spirits. Somewhere deep within, wolves held a chorus of pain, warning, and hunger, and for reasons I didn't understand. I felt him there, Ezra, like a magnetic pull. A thread wrapped around my ribs, tugging me toward him. I pressed my palms against my temples and whispered into the silence, why can't I stay away from you? The following evening, I decided to go to the old library at the edge of town. It wasn't just any library. It was the only place where I thought I could find answers. Ezra had mentioned something last night, something about moonbound laws, ancient rules that govern shifters and their mates. I needed to know what that meant, and why the universe would bind me to a man drenched in blood. Inside, the library smelled like cedarwood and forgotten secrets. Dust floated in beams of weak golden light from the high windows. I ran my fingers along cracked leather spines until I reached the hidden section tucked behind a sliding shelf. The title of one book caught my eye, Lunaris Pactum, The Binding of Souls. I pulled it out, my heart hammering as I flipped through fragile pages, filled with symbols I didn't understand. Then, a passage made my breath hitch. When the moon chooses, her will cannot be undone. A soul mark once formed cannot be severed by vengeance, distance, or death. Two become tethered until fate claims one, or both. My throat went dry. This wasn't just attraction. It wasn't my imagination. Ezra and I, we were bound. A soft creak sounded behind me, and I froze, looking for answers about us. I spun around, my pulse thundering, and there he was leaning against the doorway like he belonged to the shadows themselves. Ezra's presence consumed the air around him, all storm gray eyes and sharp edges softened only by the faint vulnerability I'd glimpsed before. I slammed the book shut. Don't come any closer. His jaw clenched, but he stepped forward anyway, his boots silent against the wooden floor. You think staying away from me will make it easier? That if you hate me enough, this, he gestured toward my wrist, where the faint silver mark pulsed beneath the skin, will disappear. I swallowed hard, my voice shaking with the weight of everything I wanted to scream. You killed my brother. Silence stretched between us like a knife's edge. His breathing slowed, and his gaze lowered, shadows flickering across his face. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw, stripped of its usual control. I know. That single confession sliced through me. My nails dug into my palms. Then why are you here? I whispered, my voice cracking. Why do you keep saving me, Ezra? Why? Why do you keep pulling me in when I should be running from you? His eyes locked onto mine, dark, haunted, and burning with something I couldn't name. Because I can't stop, he admitted. Because the night I killed him, the moment his blood touched the earth, I felt the bond snap into place. With you. My stomach lurched, my breath stuttering as his words shattered what little foundation I'd been standing on. I shook my head violently, tears burning my eyes. No, no. That's not possible. That's it is. His voice dropped lower, rougher. You feel it too, don't you? The pull, the heat, the way your wolf wakes every time I'm near. My wolf? I scoffed bitterly, though my throat was tight. I'm not like you. But his gaze softened, and for the first time, he looked at me as though I was the only thing tethering him to the earth. You are, he whispered. You just don't know it yet. I stumbled back, my head spinning. The book, the mark, the strange instincts I couldn't explain, it was all connected. But before I could demand answers, the sharp crack of breaking glass echoed through the library. Ezra's head snapped toward the sound, his body tensing instantly. They found you, he muttered. Who? I gasped. A low guttural growl rumbled from somewhere deep in the shadows, and my entire body stiffened. Out of the broken window, glowing amber eyes pierced the darkness, moving closer. Ezra stepped in front of me, his stance shifting, shoulders broad and tense. Stay behind me, he ordered, his voice dipping into something primal, something that didn't sound entirely human. The scent of rain and blood filled the air. Another howl ripped through the night. My chest heaved as terror clawed up my throat. In that moment, I understood something I hadn't before. Ezra wasn't the only danger lurking in these woods, and whatever was coming for us wasn't going to stop until one of us was dead. The forest was restless tonight. The moonlight spilled like liquid silver through the jagged silhouettes of pine trees, casting long shadows across the dirt trail. Cold mist clung low to the ground, curling around my boots as I followed the faint sound of rushing water deeper into the woods. My chest ached with every breath, but I couldn't turn back. I had to know the truth about him, about my brother's death, about everything Adrian wasn't telling me. I had followed him before once, weeks ago, when I thought he was nothing more than a mysterious stranger with haunted eyes and a broken soul. But tonight was different. He had left the cabin without a word, disappearing into the forest just as the moon reached its peak. And something deep inside me, something wild and instinctive, urged me to follow. The deeper I went, the quieter the world became. Even the crickets had stilled, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. And then, I heard it. A low guttural growl, not human, not entirely animal either. I froze. My hand clutched the edge of a tree trunk for balance, my heartbeat drumming in my ears. Through the thin veil of fog ahead, I saw him, Adrian. He stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the river, his back to me, his body trembling as though fighting against something unseen. His shirt was discarded on the forest floor, his skin glowing faintly beneath the pale wash of moonlight. And then, it happened, right before my eyes. His bones began to shift beneath his skin, his muscles twisting violently. The sound of cracking echoed through the stillness, and I bit my lip hard to keep from screaming. Dark fur tore through his skin, his fingers extending into sharp claws. His breath turned ragged, deep growls ripping from his throat as his body stretched, reshaped, transformed. Within seconds, the man I thought I knew was gone. Where he stood now was something primal. A wolf, massive, black as shadow, with silver-tipped fur that glimmered faintly under the moonlight. His glowing golden eyes locked on mine from across the fog, and for a single heartbeat, neither of us moved. I stumbled back, my breath coming in sharp, uneven gasps. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my feet wouldn't obey, because somewhere, deep inside, I already knew. I had always known Adrian was a monster, and yet, my heart didn't fear him. It broke for him. Adrian. My voice cracked, barely more than a whisper. The wolf let out a low, mournful sound, half growl, half whimper. He stepped closer, cautiously, his paws sinking into the damp earth. His massive frame was terrifying, but his movements were deliberate, controlled. And then I heard it not through sound, but through something else entirely. A voice, inside me, deep and resonant, carried like a secret on the wind. I didn't want you to find out like this. I gasped and stumbled back, my hand flying to my chest. How I can't speak. Not like this, but I can reach you. Because you're mine. My breath hitched. Yours? He stopped, his golden gaze burning through me. The fog swirled between us like smoke, and the energy in the air felt alive, humming against my skin, faded. His voice murmured inside my head, raw and reverent. From the moment I saw you, I knew. I shook my head violently, tears blurring my vision. No, you're lying. My voice broke, splintering like glass. You killed him. You killed my brother. The wolf stilled. His ears flicked. His gaze darkened, and his growl rumbled like distant thunder. No, the words slammed into me with the force of a storm. My nails dug into my palms as I tried to steady myself. I wasn't the one who killed him, Arya, his voice said inside me, heavy with something deeper than pain, guilt, grief, maybe both. But I was there. I failed him. The wind shifted suddenly, carrying the scent of damp earth and something else, something sharp, metallic, like blood. Before I could ask anything more, Adrian's wolf form stiffened, his body lowering instinctively into a defensive stance. His ears twitched, and his growl deepened, vibrating through the ground beneath my boots. Something was out there, and then I heard it, the distant snap of a twig, deliberate and heavy. Adrian turned his head toward the sound, lips curling back, to reveal razor-sharp fangs. His voice brushed against my mind again, softer this time, urgent. Stay behind me. I wanted to argue, to scream, to demand answers, but before I could, the shadows shifted. Out of the tree line emerged three figures, tall, muscular, and wrong in a way I couldn't explain. Their movements were too fluid, too predatory, their eyes glowing faintly under the moonlight. Wolves, but not like Adrian. These weren't protectors. These were hunters. One of them stepped forward, a cruel smirk twisting his lips. So, he drawled, his voice rough and mocking. The alpha finally reveals himself. Adrian snarled, his massive frame rippling with restrained violence. Alpha, I whispered under my breath, the word tasting strange and electric on my tongue. But before I could process the weight of what that meant, chaos exploded around us. The three wolves lunged forward in unison, claws flashing, teeth bared. Adrian met them head-on, his growls deafening as he tackled the first one to the ground. The other circled, fast and precise, striking from both sides. I barely managed to dive behind a tree, my hands clamped over my ears to block out the snarls, the screams, the sound of tearing flesh. The world became a blur of shadows and silver light, of blood and fury and impossible speed. Adrian fought like nothing I'd ever seen before, like an ancient force of nature made flesh. But he was outnumbered, outmatched, and then, one of the wolves spotted me, its glowing eyes locked on mine, its lips peeled back into a wicked grin. I barely had time to scream before it lunged, but Adrian was faster. He intercepted the attack midair, his massive jaws clamping down around the other wolf's throat with terrifying precision. A sickening crunch echoed, and the body fell limp to the ground. The other two retreated instantly, their glowing eyes narrowing as they backed into the mist. One of them spat the words like a curse before vanishing into the darkness. This isn't over, Alpha. Silence returned to the forest, broken only by the sound of Adrian's heavy, ragged breathing. I stepped out from behind the tree, trembling, my body numb with shock. His massive form stood in the moonlight, streaked with blood, his golden eyes locking onto mine with something primal and infinite. And in that moment, I understood two things. Adrian was not human. And neither was I anymore, not completely, because whatever fate had bound us, it was too late to escape it now. The night was restless, heavy with the kind of silence that carried secrets. The full moon hung like a silver coin nailed to the black sky, bleeding its pale glow into the forest below. The wind whispered through the trees, brushing against my skin like icy fingertips, and every distant rustle made my heart race faster. I stood at the edge of the clearing, my boots sinking slightly into the damp earth, breathing in the mingling scents of pine, wet soil, and something else, something feral. Behind me, Elias was a quiet shadow, his presence as magnetic as ever. The storm between us had barely calmed since the revelations of last night. I could feel his eyes on me even when he said nothing, the weight of his gaze, a tether I couldn't entangle myself from. And yet, despite everything, the danger, the blood, my brother's death, I couldn't walk away. I turned to face him. His figure was half swallowed by the moonlight, his black shirt clinging to his body, his breathing steady but tense. There was an unreadable expression etched across his face, a mask of control that barely held back the wildness beneath. I hated how much I wanted to touch him, even knowing what he was, even knowing what he'd done. I shouldn't be here, I whispered, my voice trembling despite my attempt at strength. You shouldn't, Elias agreed, his tone calm, quiet, but his eyes glimmered like wildfire. And yet, you are. I swallowed hard, my throat dry, heat blooming beneath my skin. You think that makes me weak? No, he stepped closer, his boots crunching softly against the undergrowth. I think it makes you mine. The words slammed into me, unexpected and sharp, stealing my breath. My body betrayed me before my mind could fight it, my chest rising and falling quicker, my pulse thrumming wildly. But I couldn't let him see how much his words affected me. Not when I still carried the weight of my brother's blood on my conscience. You killed him, I said, my voice breaking despite my effort to sound steady. You killed my brother, Elias? He froze. The air between us thickened like fog, silent but suffocating. His jaw tightened, his gaze flickering down for just a heartbeat before locking on mine again. You don't know the whole story, he said finally, voice low and rough. You only know what it looked like, not what it was. Then tell me, I demanded, fists trembling at my sides. Tell me why my brother is in the ground. Tell me why I can't sleep without hearing his screams in my head. Something in his expression cracked. For the first time, I saw guilt, not weakness, not shame, but a deep, brutal kind of torment that twisted his features. You think I wanted this? He whispered, so softly I almost missed it. You think I wanted to be the one who? He stopped himself, dragging in a breath. I had no choice. I shook my head, frustrated tears burning at the edges of my vision. There's always a choice, not when the moonbind commands you. The word startled me into silence. The moonbind? I repeated, confused. He nodded slowly, stepping closer, his hand unconsciously brushing the scar on his forearm, the same mark I'd seen before but never understood. It's a binding oath, he explained quietly. A blood pact that ties an alpha to his pack and to the will of the moon. If I disobey an order, I die. My heart stuttered in my chest. So you're saying my brother's death? My voice faltered as the pieces began slotting together in my head. It was an order? Elias' silence was answer enough. The weight of his confession pressed against me like a physical force, crushing and confusing me all at once. Rage tangled with heartbreak, betrayal with reluctant understanding. It was easier to hate him when I believed he'd chosen it. But this was something else entirely, and yet the anger wouldn't let go. You could have fought it, I argued, my voice trembling. You could have done something. You think I didn't try? He snapped, finally losing the icy calm he always wore like armor. His voice reverberated in the still air, low and raw, the growl beneath it unmistakable. Do you think I wanted to see his blood on my hands? Do you think I wanted to watch the light leave his eyes? I flinched at the sharpness of his words, my chest aching with the same grief I'd been drowning in since that night. Silence settled again, heavier than before. The moonlight made the silver in his irises glow faintly, an otherworldly reminder of what he truly was, a predator, a creature of the night, a killer bound by something older than either of us. And yet, when he looked at me, I didn't see a monster. I saw a man unraveling at the seams. Before I could speak, the distant howl of a wolf split the night, low, echoing. Too close, Elias' head snapped toward the sound, every muscle in his body tensing. They're here, he muttered under his breath, scanning the tree line. My stomach dropped. Who? The blood fangs, he said, his voice turning sharp, dangerous. Rogue wolves. They've been hunting near the border for weeks, but if they've come this deep, his jaw clenched. It means they're after you. Me? I whispered, startled. Yes, he growled, taking my wrist and pulling me closer without warning. Because of what you are. I blinked up at him, utterly lost. What I am? I'm human. No, Elias said, his gaze piercing mine like steel. Not anymore. My breath caught, his words settling in my chest like cold lead. What do you mean? Not anymore? He hesitated, his expression conflicted, as though there was a war raging inside him between protecting me and keeping the truth hidden. But before he could answer, the sound of footsteps cracked through the silence. Fast, many, surrounding us. Elias' grip tightened on my wrist. Stay behind me, he ordered, his voice a dangerous rumble. Shapes emerged from the shadows between the trees, eyes glinting, fur bristling, low snarls vibrating through the night. 5, no, 6 of them, bigger than any natural wolf could be, their presence radiating menace and hunger. One of them stepped forward, a massive gray with jagged scars across its muzzle. Its voice rasped out, deep and chilling, words that vibrated like growls. Give us the girl. Elias positioned himself in front of me, his body lowering into a fighting stance, his growl deep and primal. Over my dead body, he snarled. The leader bared his teeth, his glowing amber eyes locked on me. That can be arranged. The air shifted. Tension thickened like a storm ready to break. My pulse thundered in my ears, my fingers clenching in the folds of Elias' shirt, and then, all at once, chaos erupted. The blood fangs lunged. Elias met them mid-air, shifting in a violent, bone-cracking flash of power, his body contorting and expanding into the beast within. Fur tore through his skin, claws sliced through the dirt, and his roar shook the night itself. I stumbled backward, my back hitting a tree, frozen in both terror and awe. Elias wasn't just a wolf, he was a force of nature, faster, stronger, and more lethal than anything I'd ever seen. But there were too many of them. Through the frenzy, my gaze locked on Elias as he fought, his movements precise and feral, every strike a deadly promise. Blood sprayed, growls echoed, and the clash of teeth and claws filled the clearing. And yet, even as he fought like the monster he was born to be, his eyes, those glowing, storm-tossed eyes, kept finding mine, like he was fighting for me, like he would die for me. But deep down, I knew this was only the beginning, because if the blood fangs were here, then the war had already started. The storm had passed, but the forest still carried its scars. Branches hung broken, the earth was damp and heavy, and somewhere in the distance, thunder still growled faintly like an echo of a warning that hadn't fully left. I stood at the edge of the riverbank, staring into the dark, swirling water, my chest aching with questions that refused to settle. Everything I had learned about my brother's death, about the rogue who killed him, about Damien, none of it made sense anymore. He wasn't just a rogue. He wasn't just some monster driven by bloodlust. He was hiding something deeper. And the more I dug, the more I realized I wasn't prepared for the answers I might find. Behind me, twigs snapped under boots, and I turned sharply, my hand instinctively resting on the hunting knife at my hip. It's just me, Damien's voice, low, rough, steady, pulled me out of my spiraling thoughts. He stepped out from between the shadows of 2 towering pines, his damp shirt clinging to his chest, strands of black hair still plastered to his forehead from the rain. His eyes, those unsettling shades of stormy gray, locked onto mine with a heaviness I couldn't read. You shouldn't wander this deep into the woods alone, he said, his tone carrying a quiet reprimand. I crossed my arms, deflecting his concern with frustration I couldn't contain anymore. Then tell me why I shouldn't need to, I shot back. You keep warning me, Damien. You keep saying there are things I don't understand. Then make me understand. For a long moment, silence stretched between us. The forest was alive, with faint sounds, the distant caw of a raven, the rush of the river, but it all felt muted beneath the weight of his hesitation. Finally, Damien exhaled and walked closer, his expression caught between frustration and exhaustion. You're right, he said softly, as if admitting something he had been avoiding for too long. You deserve to know the truth. My breath caught. Every muscle in my body tensed, bracing for whatever storm he was about to unleash. And then he said it. Your brother wasn't killed by accident. The words hit like a blade, sinking deep, cold and deliberate. I stared at him, my pulse roaring in my ears. What are you talking about? My voice was thin, sharp, barely more than a whisper. Damien's gaze didn't waver, even as regret shadowed his expression. He wasn't just in the wrong place at the wrong time, Lily. He was hunted, marked. The wolves that attacked that night, they didn't stumble into him. They came for him. I stumbled back a step, shaking my head. No, that's not possible. Then, just when it seemed Lucian was about to overpower him, the rogue shifted fully into his wolf form, a monstrous, black-furred beast with burning red eyes. He lunged, teeth bared, and Lucian shifted mid-air to meet him, his silver gray wolf colliding with the rogue in a violent explosion of muscle and fury. The battle was brutal, two predators locked in a deadly dance. The scent of blood and damp earth filled my lungs, every snarl rattling my bones, and then as quickly as it began it ended. Lucian pinned the rogue beneath his massive paw, his jaws closing dangerously around the beast's throat. For a second, I thought he would kill him, but instead, he growled low, vibrating the ground beneath us, and said through clenched teeth, "Talk, now." The rogue coughed, shifting halfway back into his human form, his breaths ragged and broken. "You want the truth?" he rasped, his voice hoarse. "Your brother wasn't innocent." My chest tightened. "What are you talking about?" He turned his gaze to me, blood dripping from his lips as he whispered, "Your brother was hunting us." The world seemed to tilt beneath me. I stumbled back, shaking my head in denial, but his words clung to me like shadows I couldn't escape. Lucian's gaze burned into mine, intense and unreadable. "Don't listen to him," he said, his voice steady, but there was something in his eyes, something unspoken, that told me he wasn't giving me the whole truth either. And just like that, the rogue's lips curved into a twisted smile. "You'll find out soon enough, little human," he whispered before his body went limp beneath Lucian's grip. Lucian released him, rising to his full height, his breath ragged. Blood streaked his cheek, his hands trembling faintly, but his gaze never left me. I met his eyes, my chest burning, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. "You knew," I whispered, my voice breaking. "You've always known." Lucian didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence between us said everything. And somewhere deep inside, I knew the bond, the soul deep, impossible bond tying me to him, was both my salvation and my undoing. The forest was quieter than usual that night, too quiet. Lena stood at the edge of the lake, the silver glow of the moon draping her like a fragile veil. Ripples of mist danced above the dark waters, curling like restless spirits in the cold air. She could hear her own heartbeat echoing in her ears, faster and louder with every passing second. Somewhere deep in the shadows, an owl screeched. A single, sharp cry before silence reclaimed everything again. Her breath trembled as she whispered to herself, "This can't be happening. It can't." Behind her, leaves crunched softly, a presence she could sense before she even turned. His scent reached her first, wild, earthy, electric. "Lena." Her name rolled off his lips like a vow. Aiden stepped out of the shadows, his broad frame catching slivers of moonlight. His hair was damp with sweat, his chest rising and falling as though he had been running from danger, or toward her. "You shouldn't be out here alone," he said, voice low but rough, as though holding back something violent beneath the surface. She clenched her fists, digging her nails into her palms. "Then why are you here, Aiden? To warn me? To protect me? Or to finish what you started the night you—" her voice cracked. "The night you killed my brother?" He flinched, his jaw tightening. For the briefest moment, his usually cold, controlled expression shattered, revealing something raw beneath: regret, pain. "I never wanted that night to happen," he rasped. "I didn't choose it, Lena. You know that." Her throat burned as her anger surged. "Then why didn't you tell me the truth? Why didn't you warn me before I found out from them?" Silence hung between them, only the sound of the lake lapping softly against the shore. Finally, he stepped closer. Not too close, just enough for her to see the gold flickering faintly in his dark eyes. His wolf was restless tonight, close to the surface, clawing at the edges of his control. "Because," he said quietly, "I was afraid I'd lose you." The words hit her like a blow she wasn't ready for. A part of her wanted to scream at him. Another part, the part that had spent sleepless nights aching for answers, for closure, for him, just wanted to break. "You already lost me, Aiden," she whispered. "No." His voice deepened, firm but pleading. "You don't understand. That night, your brother made his choice." Her head snapped up, fury sparking in her chest. "Don't you dare blame him." "I'm not blaming him," he said, stepping forward. Again, his shadow nearly touching hers now. "But he came after me, Lena. He knew what I was. He attacked first. If I hadn't fought back, I'd be dead." Her breath caught in her throat. She hated that his words carried weight, hated that deep down, a part of her believed him. "You're lying," she whispered, though her voice lacked strength. "If you truly believed that," he murmured, lowering his gaze, "you wouldn't be standing here right now." The truth of it sliced through her like cold steel. Her entire body trembled, caught between the sharp edges of love and hate, grief and longing. Aiden closed the remaining distance between them, so close now she could feel the heat radiating off him. His hand lifted slowly, carefully, as if afraid she'd pull away, and brushed a stray strand of hair from her face. Lena, he breathed, his voice soft but heavy with meaning. You're mine. Her breath hitched. You don't get to claim me. I don't have a choice, he said, his voice breaking slightly, revealing the weight he'd been carrying all along. From the moment I saw you, from the moment my wolf recognized yours, it was over. The bond chose you. I tried to fight it. I thought I could stay away, but every step I took, every breath I drew, always led me back to you. Her chest tightened, her mind spinning with his words. Fated mates, soul bonds, all the things she didn't want to believe, all the things she couldn't deny anymore. You killed my brother, she whispered, more to herself than to him, and I'll spend the rest of my life making it right. Aiden vowed, his voice low, fierce. If you want my blood, take it. If you want me gone, I'll disappear. But don't ask me to stop loving you, Lena, because I can't. Tears blurred her vision. Her heart screamed no, but her body, her wolf, whispered yes. And then it happened. One step forward, one breath held, one moment where the entire world stopped. He cupped her face gently, reverently, as though she were something fragile, untouchable. Their foreheads touched, his breath mingling with hers, and she swore she could feel the electric hum of the mate bond wrapping around them, pulling tighter, deeper, unbreakable. Say it, he murmured, against her lips. Say you don't feel it. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Because she couldn't, the air thickened, charged with energy, magic, and the quiet inevitability of fate. Her pulse roared in her ears as his lips brushed hers, soft at first, tentative, then hungrier, more desperate, like a storm breaking. After years of silence, her hands trembling, found his chest. But instead of pushing him away, her fingers curled into his shirt, pulling him closer. The kiss wasn't sweet. It was aching, broken, a confession they were both too afraid to speak aloud. When they finally pulled apart, breathing hard, neither of them spoke for a long moment. The silence said everything. You're still angry, Aiden said softly, his thumb brushing away a tear that had escaped her cheek. I am, she admitted, her voice cracking. I don't know if I can forgive you. Then don't forgive me, he said, pressing his forehead against hers again. Just don't let me go. Her eyes fluttered shut as she fought the war raging inside her. She hated him. She wanted him. She feared him. She needed him. Somewhere deep within, her wolf stirred, restless, alive, whispering the truth she wasn't ready to face. They belonged to each other, even if it destroyed them both. And above them, the moon watched silently, a witness to a love born of blood, betrayal, and destiny. The night had teeth. The wind screamed through the pines, bending them like brittle bones, carrying with it the metallic scent of blood and the electric promise of violence. Above us, the blood moon bled into the sky, swollen, ominous, and burning red, as if the heavens themselves were watching and judging. I stood at the edge of the clearing, my pulse pounding so hard I thought my heart might burst free from my chest. The earth beneath my boots trembled, humming with ancient energy. A storm was coming, not of wind and rain, but of claws and fangs, of power and death, and standing at the heart of it was him. Rowan's broad shoulders rose and fell with each ragged breath. His wolf stirred beneath his skin, fighting for dominance. His eyes, those molten amber flames that once set my entire soul ablaze, were now darkened, stormy, almost unrecognizable. The tension between us coiled tighter than ever before, pulling me toward him. Even now, when the world threatened to tear us apart, but we weren't alone. The clearing was crowded with shadows, his pack on one side, mine on the other, two forces brimming with distrust and bloodlust. At their center stood Damien, my brother's killer, the wolf who had haunted every nightmare since the night my world was shattered. Except, Damien wasn't snarling or lunging. He was smiling. Funny, isn't it? Damien's voice carried, smooth as venom. Fate's cruel little game. You mourned your brother for years, Mara. And now you stand beside the beast who put him in the ground. My throat tightened, my fists clenching. At my sides, you know nothing about me. He tilted his head, his grin widening. Oh, I know everything. I know what you are, and I know what you'll become when this is over. Something about the way he said it made the cold bite deep. into my spine. Rowan stepped forward then, his body a living wall between us, his claws half shifted and gleaming under the red moonlight. You've had your fun, Damien. Now you run, or you bleed. Damien's laughter cracked through the clearing like thunder. You think you can stop what's coming? His gaze cut toward me, sharp as a blade. Ask her about her blood. Ask her why her pulse sings beneath this moon. She doesn't even know. Does she? My breath hitched. My blood? Rowan's hand brushed mine just for a second, grounding me, steadying me, silently promising he wouldn't let anyone hurt me. But there was a weight in his touch, a heaviness that frightened me. Don't listen to him, he murmured under his breath. He wants to rattle you, that's all. Except it wasn't just that. I could feel it, a strange heat building beneath my skin, a pull toward the red moon above, wild and untamed. My wolf stirred faintly, whispering things I didn't yet understand. Then the first howl split the night. It came from deep within the forest, low and haunting, and then another followed. And another, dozens, maybe hundreds. The rogue pack had arrived. I turned, scanning the shadows, my chest tightening as pairs of glowing eyes began appearing between the trees, one after another, until the forest itself seemed alive. Rowan swore under his breath, his jaw tightening as his wolves shifted, fur bristling, teeth bared. They came sooner than I thought, he growled. Stay behind me, Mara. No, I whispered, shaking my head. My voice trembled. But I meant it. I'm not hiding. I couldn't hide. Not anymore. The rogues spilled into the clearing. Like a flood, their snarls and growls deafening, their bodies tense with the hunger of the hunt. I could see their leader, a towering brute of a wolf with jagged scars across his muzzle, stalking forward with calculated precision. Rowan, Blackthorn, the leader snarled, his voice gravel and fire. This ends tonight. No more games. No more excuses. The blood moon demands a reckoning. Damien smirked, stepping into the shadows like he'd been expecting this all along. And then chaos. The first wolf lunged, and Rowan met him midair, their bodies colliding with a sickening crunch of bone and flesh. Shouts erupted, claws slashed, fangs tore through the night. The clearing dissolved into pure violence, and for a moment I was frozen, caught between the primal terror and the strange, magnetic power humming through me. Then I felt it, a pulse, a surge of heat beneath my skin, racing through my veins, filling my chest until I thought I might explode. My vision blurred, and for the first time, I felt my wolf pushing against me, not a whisper this time, but a roar. Mara. It was Rowan's voice, but inside my head, my heart lurched violently. Rowan? I gasped, staggering. His head snapped toward me even as he tore into another rogue, his eyes burning brighter than fire. Your blood, he growled through the mind link, his voice rough with desperation. Damien wasn't lying. The moon's waking it up. You can't fight it anymore. I didn't understand, not fully, but my instincts screamed louder than my fear. Another rogue came at me, claws flashing. I ducked, rolling across the damp earth, snatching up a broken branch and swinging hard. It connected with a sickening crack, and the wolf stumbled back, stunned. I wasn't supposed to be this fast. I wasn't supposed to be this strong, but I was. I met Rowan's gaze across the chaos, my breath ragged, my entire body trembling. His lips parted slightly, his expression caught somewhere between awe and dread. Mara, he whispered through the link again, voice shaking now. You're one of us. The world tilted beneath me. I wanted to scream, to deny it, but the red moon above howled in my blood, pulling me toward a truth I didn't want to face. A deafening snarl ripped through the clearing, silencing everything. For a heartbeat, the rogue leader lunged, knocking Rowan to the ground, pinning him beneath its weight. No, I screamed, my throat raw. And then it happened, the thing I'd feared, the thing I didn't believe was possible. Heat exploded beneath my skin, my bones cracking, reshaping, stretching. My screams blended into a howl that didn't sound human at all. And when I opened my eyes again, the world was different, sharper, wilder, blood on the air, power in my muscles, the earth singing beneath my paws. I had shifted. For the first time, the battle stopped. Every wolf, Rowan's, the rogues, Damien, all stared at me. Under the blood moon's crimson glow, I stood between predator and prey, no longer either. Something else, something more. Rowan rose slowly, his wolf breathing hard, his amber gaze locked with mine, and in that moment, something passed between us. Something ancient, something unbreakable. The blood moon wasn't just a curse. It was a calling, and I had answered. but this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The moon was at its zenith. Silver spilled through the shattered canopy above, turning the forest floor into a mosaic of shadows and light. The air was thick with damp earth and lingering smoke from the battle, every breath tasting like rain and blood. I stood on the ridge, my body trembling from exhaustion, my wolf just beneath my skin, restless and aching. My heart beat in erratic rhythms, fear, relief, love, and the raw hum of something ancient moving within me. Below, the clearing was littered with chaos, broken branches, scorch marks, and the bodies of rogues who had dared to challenge us. The battle was over, but not everything was won. I turned toward him. Ronan stood a few paces away, his chest bare and streaked with dirt and crimson, his wolf eyes glowing faintly under the moonlight. His breathing was ragged, muscles tight beneath skin damp with sweat, but his gaze was steady. It pinned me where I stood, unyielding and infinite. I didn't need words to understand him. This was the moment, the one we had been running toward and away from since the night we met, but the weight of it almost crushed me. The memory of my brother's death still lived inside me like a wound that refused to close. No matter how many truths Ronan had given me, no matter how many times he had shielded me, bled for me, chosen me over his pack, part of me still bled when I thought of him. I clenched my fists. My nails dug crescents into my palms, grounding me. Lena, Ronan's voice was low, rasping, almost pleading. His steps toward me were careful, as though I might shatter if he came too close too quickly. It's done. It's over. We survived. I met his gaze, searching it, drowning in it. Over? My voice cracked, soft but sharp enough to wound us both. It will never be over, Ronan. Not for me. Not when every time I look at you, I see him. His jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. Then look deeper, he whispered, his words like gravel and silk all at once. Look past the blood, past the choices I made that night. See me, the man who would burn this entire world to keep you breathing. The tears I'd been holding back slipped free, hot and unrelenting. I hated how much I wanted to believe him, how much my wolf already did. He took another step, and I didn't move away this time. There's something you don't know, he said, softer now, his voice carrying weight and sorrow. About that night, about your brother. I stiffened, breath catching in my throat. I didn't kill him the way you think I did, Ronan continued, his hand half reaching for me but stopping midway, as though afraid his touch might push me further away. He challenged me, Lena. He came for me first, not for dominance, but because he thought I was cursed, a danger to you and the pack. He wanted me dead before I could, before fate could make this happen. Fate, the cursed word between us. You're lying, I whispered, though the conviction wasn't there. I swore I would never lie to you, he said fiercely. I held back the truth because I thought you hated me enough already. The forest went silent, the night creatures holding their breath. My own heart did the same. I thought of my brother's last words, his wild anger, the blood on his hands before it was on Ronan's. I thought of all the pieces that had never fit, all the shadows I'd refused to see. My chest tightened as the memories clawed their way back, but this time, they told a different story. And maybe I hated myself for it, but I believed him. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to steady. Even if I forgive you, I hesitated, searching his face. The pack will never accept me. I'm human, Ronan. To them, I will always be. You are mine, he interrupted, his voice a growl now, deep and final. And they will have no choice but to accept what the moon has already chosen. Then he stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off him, the wild storm beneath his skin barely restrained. His hand lifted to my cheek, rough and hesitant, as though giving me the chance to pull away. I didn't, Lena, he murmured, his thumb brushing away a tear. Say it. My throat tightened, but my wolf surged forward, restless and certain, her voice mingling with mine when I whispered, I choose you. The bond snapped into place, not gentle, not soft. It burned through me like lightning, ripping open the sky. Every piece of me, my pain, my doubt, my love, my longing collided with his in a blinding rush of heat and memory and something older than both of us. My lungs locked, my knees buckled, but Ronan caught me, holding me against his chest. As the mark bloomed across my skin, silver and fierce, a promise written in blood and moonlight, a howl tore through the night. Ronan's wolf claiming me before the stars themselves. And somewhere in the distance, I heard others answering, their voices weaving into the song of something bigger than us, older than destiny. The pack emerged slowly from the shadows, their golden eyes glowing like embers beneath the trees. Some looked at me with awe, others with doubt, but none dared speak against what they had witnessed. The bond was absolute. Ronan's hand threaded through mine, grounding me. "They'll follow us," he said, low but certain. "And those who don't," he paused, his jaw sharp with quiet fury, "will learn what it means to challenge fate." The night wind shifted, carrying the faint scent of rain, of soil, of something reborn. I breathed it in, letting it fill the spaces where grief once lived. For the first time, the pain of my brother's death didn't hollow me. It burned, yes, but like a scar, not an open wound. Ronan's thumb brushed over the mark on my neck, his gaze soft now, reverent. "From this night forward," he said, his voice rough but steady, "you're no longer just mine. You're Alpha alongside me." My heart stuttered. Alpha? The word rooted deep inside me, both terrifying and intoxicating. I had spent so long running from this world, this bond, this destiny. But standing there beneath the bleeding moonlight, with Ronan's hand steady in mine and the pack's silent acknowledgement in the air, I wasn't running anymore. I looked up at the sky, endless, alive, and infinite, and whispered to the universe, "I'm ready." The moon seemed to answer, its glow brighter, fuller, wrapping us in silver fire. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't the end of our story. It was only the beginning.